Dan Canobbio for Inside Boxing Live and PPV.com here with some breaking news out of the boxing world. According to my sources at the PBC, Keith Thurman is out of his fight with Tszyu, which is scheduled for March 30th. Sebastian Fundora will step up into the main event. It will remain a pay-per-view, and all things will be system go. Now it is not sure if it will be the main event or will be the co-main event. Rolly versus Pitbull. That fight is still on. Do not know what this means for Sergey Boachuk, who was supposed to be fighting Sebastian Fundora on the first fight of the pay-per-view card. Michael Zarafa versus Arizona Lara is also on this card as well. But this all went down in the last couple of hours here on Monday, March 18th. First reported by The Boxing Voice. They do great work over there. My guy Ness. I was watching the live stream when he actually got a call from Keith Thurman, who confirmed that he was going to get an MRI. Apparently, the MRI came back. Bicep injury for Keith Thurman. And listen, Keith Thurman's 35 years old. Keith Thurman hasn't fought in 2 years. These are the type of injuries that happen to fighters when they take long periods of time off, when they get up into their mid-30s. We're always walking on eggshells, and we're always wondering if Keith would get hurt or one of these older fighters would get hurt. It's also part of sports. It's also part of boxing. It's a very tough sport. Apparently, he got hurt in sparring. We're only 11 or 12 days away from this pay-per-view event. Got a feel for Tszyu. This is now another American fighter that pulls out. He's just trying to make a name in the U.S. There was a big marketing effort for Tszyu here, PPC, United States, all that. He's supposed to fight Jamel Charlo. Charlo pulls out of that fight with a hand injury. He's then forced Tszyu to fight the Brian Mendozas of the world, the Tony Harrisons of the world, knock them all out, put them in front of him. Tszyu knocks him out. So this is the latest name, or the latest cancellation for Tszyu. That is Keith Thurman. You also have to wonder if this is the end for Keith Thurman. It was a very tough sell to begin with. To have Keith Thurman on this card, obviously a name of the past, 2017. He was amazing, unified champion at welterweight. The one fight since Manny Pacquiao in 2019. Long bouts of inactivity. To hear his name back in the mix with PBC to fight Tszyu, a lot of people were scratching their head. But as the fight promotion went on, and as we got to hear more from Keith and see more from Keith, there were a lot of people out there that were giving Keith a chance in this fight. I was just thinking of this on Monday morning when I woke up. You know what? I just watched The Gloves Off on Amazon Prime, and Keith is such a great salesman, and he's such a great talker. And he's also has the ability to take long periods of time off, come back, and look athletic and look powerful. I don't know if he was going to be able to do it at age 35, coming off of this layoff, and against a guy like Tszyu, who's not Manny Pacquiao at age 40, who's not Mario Barrios. No offense to Mario Barrios. Tszyu's a lot better than that, and Tszyu was a lot better than Manny Pacquiao was at that point in his career when Thurman lost to Pacquiao. But I was starting to come up with some narratives in my head. I was starting to come up with some ways, some paths to victory for Keith Thurman in this fight, but it's out. It's off. In steps Sebastian Fundora. Sebastian Fundora is currently ranked 4th in the ring rankings. He is coming off of the only loss of his career, which was a devastating knockout to Brian Mendoza. Brian Mendoza recently lost to Tszyu. I understand why they went with Sebastian Fundora. He is a name. He's been featured on many PBC telecasts. He's been featured on Showtime. He's been featured on Fox. He is a name in boxing. He always goes for the knockout. He's 6'7", 154 pounds. There's always a curiosity there. It was an interesting thing for me at first. I tried not to just look at Sebastian Fundora as this giant guy at 154 pounds. He's actually a really damn good fighter. Coming off a loss, though. That's going to be a talking point in this, is how is he going to deal with the Brian Mendoza knockout, which was probably in the top 3 knockout of the year last year. And he was supposed to fight Sergey Boachuk. I was really excited for that fight. I thought Sergey Boachuk versus Fundora was going to steal the show. on March 30th. Boachuk is undefeated, has a 100% knockout rate. I don't know what this means for him. There were some other names that I was throwing around. I put it out on our Instagram. Go check it out, Inside Boxing Live. Throwing out names like Virgil Ortiz. I see a lot of people tweeting about that. Virgil's with DAZN. He's with Golden Boy. He is just coming back from some debilitating health issues, and he is now going to be primed to be in a spot, I think, with the WBA at 154 with Madrimov, who is a DAZN fighter too. So that's a long shot. As much as I would like to see that. Terrence Crawford, absolute long shot. Jamel Charlo, another long shot. Haven't heard from Charlo in quite a while now. But names like Fundora, names like Jesus Ramos, who lost to Erickson Lubin, is another name that could possibly stepped in for this fight. These are all PBC fighters, guys that can pop in there. It's really hard, though, on 13 days or 12 days notice just to go in there. Erickson Lubin, not, as far as I know, not really training for a fight. He's probably in pretty good shape, but I don't think he's ready to hop in with Tszyu right away, nor would he take that type of assignment and rush along his career. Jesus Ramos is another name that I thought Ramos beat Erickson Lubin when they fought on the undercard of Charlo and Canelo. Don't know his status. Don't know if he's in shape, if he's in the gym and all that. So they probably went and looked at the card and said, all right, we have another 154-pound fight on this card. We got a guy in Sebastian Fundora who the boxing public knows. Not as much as the boxing public knows Keith Thurman, not as much as maybe the sports world knows Keith Thurman. Keith's a big name, man. Keith is a PBC stalwart. This guy fought on pretty much every network. NBC, CBS, ESPN, HBO, Showtime. And now he was going to be here on Amazon Prime. That's another part of this deal, is that this is the first pay-per-view for Amazon Prime. There have been a lot of reports. There's been a lot of grumblings. There's been a lot of rumors. There's been a lot of background talk about how committed is Amazon Prime to PBC and this deal. They just now put out the gloves off, all access type of content up on their app and up on their main sports page. But this is the deal with combat sports. There's injuries. There's injuries sometimes right before a big fight. Look at Spence and Pacquiao. That was a massive fight. That was a much bigger event than this one. Spence gets the eye injury. What is it, like 2 weeks before the fight? In steps Yordenis Ugas. He ends up beating Pacquiao. I'm not going to say Fundora is going to beat Tszyu in there, but now Tszyu has to deal with a whole nother type of opponent in there. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, Amazon Prime is learning about the boxing game, is learning about the combat sports world, learning about the live sports world. But, this is the things you have to deal with. Props to PBC for keeping this card together, putting Fundora into the main event for Tszyu. It's tough now for Tszyu. Training, preparing for weeks on end for a guy in Thurman who fights completely different than Fundora, despite the fact that he's a completely different shape of a human. Fundora is like, what is he, 6'6", and throws those looping shots and gets on the inside, where Thurman is more of a guy that was going to, be athletic in there, throw his big shots, loop around. So I expect Tszyu's team right now is probably just crunching the numbers and going over every possible way that they could prepare for a guy in Sebastian Fundora. Craziness, man. This is what happens in the boxing world. Got the alert this morning. Saw some rumblings on Twitter. A couple of the diehard boxing accounts. Shout out to Boog Williams, who was posting about some guy at 154 who I had no idea who he was. Knew the PBC wouldn't go that route. I was curious if they were going to elevate Rolly versus Pitbull to the main event and find a lesser opponent for Tszyu. But from everything I've seen, Tszyu Fundora will remain the main event of this Amazon Prime pay-per-view. Rolly versus Pitbull will be the co-main event. Lara Zarafa will be in there as well. I don't know what this means for Sergey Boachuk. There are also some fights free on Amazon beforehand, like really early in the night. Maybe they'll elevate one of those fights. That's the latest at 154 pounds. Shout out to the Boxing Voice and my guy Ness. I see that the usual suspects on Twitter are not giving the proper credit Michael Benson with 2 N's. I'm not even sure that guy's even like a real person. Twitter aggregator credited Dan Raphael. Dan Raphael obviously called up his guy at PBC and just tried to confirm it and did confirm it. It looks like Ness got it right from the source, got it before Dan Raphael. Heard from Keith Thurman, according to Ness. I was watching the live stream, and he walked away from the live stream, and then he came back and said, I was just on the phone with Keith Thurman. And Keith Thurman was upset that the word got out, but he's also happy that I was able to get this scoop. So, yeah, I'm always going to give credit to those YouTube pages that are grinding and that aren't exactly quote-unquote mainstream, like Ness and The Boxing Voice. So that is the latest. I'm going to check Twitter right now, see if there's anything else that we can look at for this fight. Majority of the fans would want to see Erickson Lubin. A lot of people are telling me, I'd like to see Lubin. One guy said Fundora. Guys like Boots, that's not going to happen. Boots is at 147 pounds. He's got a purse bid with Cody Crawley. Boots could be fighting Cody Crawley in some type of title eliminator, and that could end up on the Canelo undercard of Munguia, which is May 4th. So, to sum it all up, Keith Thurman out, bicep injury. Sebastian Fundora in, fighting Tszyu March 30th on ppv.com. Watch it live on ppv.com. I will be there in Las Vegas, bringing you all up-to-date updates, content. I'll talk to Fundora. We'll do some fun content. We'll talk to Tszyu. We'll talk to Rolly. We'll still make the most of this event. Who knows? It could be a shootout. Fundora only knows one style. That's come forward. That's the only way Fundora knows, is to come forward and throw bombs. Same thing with Tszyu. Order the fight on ppv.com. Join us in the live interactive chat on Fight Night. Me, Chris Algieri, Jim Lampley, Lance Pugmire, and many more. Thank you so much for joining us for this breaking news bulletin.